There's something extraordinary about a woman who knows who she is, not just in a mirror, but in a moment of silence. You can feel it when she walks into a room. It's not her style, it's not her skin, it's something deeper, something sacred. Real beauty doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it doesn't compete. It simply is. It stands in stillness and speaks with presence. Because the most beautiful woman isn't the loudest voice in the room, she's the clearest. And yet, in a world constantly selling us definitions of beauty based on surface filters and followers, we've forgotten something. A truly beautiful woman cannot be seen with the eyes alone. She must be felt with the soul. This isn't about charm. It's about character. It's not about what's worn, it's about what's lived. And the truth is, there are divine qualities that no one can fabricate, fake, or buy. They are cultivated in quiet spaces, refined in solitude, forged in the furnace of life. So today, we explore the 10 divine qualities of a truly beautiful woman, not to fit into a mold, but to break free from every false one. There's a kind of beauty that doesn't announce itself, doesn't clamor for attention, doesn't shift with trends. It lives deeper than the surface. It whispers through presence, through the way a woman carries herself when no one is watching. It's not found in the sharpness of her features, but in the softness of her gaze. Not in how she looks, but in how she lives. This kind of beauty, the kind that stops time, begins where few are willing to look, within. True beauty is a reflection of alignment, not appearance. It comes from being anchored, from living in harmony with one's values. There's a power in knowing who you are and what you stand for, and when that knowledge runs deep, it radiates outward. People might call it glow or charisma, but what they're really seeing is internal congruence. A woman who's in tune with her core doesn't need to decorate herself for the sake of others. Her presence already speaks a truth that words cannot. We live in a time where the world shouts at women constantly, telling them how to look, how to act, how to be. There's always another rule, another product, another persona to wear. And it's easy to get swept up in it, easy to start believing that worth is something you chase, not something you come home to. But the truly beautiful woman has stopped running. She's chosen to root herself. She's chosen presence over perfection. She has come to understand that alignment is the foundation of beauty, not the kind of alignment that looks good on paper, but the kind that creates inner harmony. When her values match her actions, when her yes means yes and her no means no, she begins to trust herself. And that trust creates a sense of calm that others can feel. It's not about being loud. It's about being certain in her purpose, certain in her integrity, certain in her path, even if others don't understand it. This alignment allows her to move through the world without apology. She doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort, nor does she overextend herself for approval. She doesn't rely on outside voices to define her. Instead, she listens inward. She has built a relationship with herself strong enough to anchor her in chaos and quiet alike. That relationship is the foundation of her beauty, not the image others see, but the identity she lives from. When a woman is aligned, she no longer asks the world for permission to exist. She shows up not with entitlement, but with assurance, not with arrogance, but with authenticity. There's no need for pretense. Her confidence is not loud, it's steady. Her strength is not showy, it's sincere. People notice it even if they can't articulate what they're feeling, because what they're encountering is rare. Someone who is not fractured, someone who is whole. But this kind of beauty isn't built overnight. It's the result of choosing integrity when convenience beckons, of walking away from what's popular to stay true to what's personal. It takes courage, because there's nothing easy about living in alignment in a world that rewards masks. But alignment has a reward that image never can: peace. And peace, when carried well, is breathtaking. That peace doesn't mean she lives without tension. Life will always bring challenge, What sets her apart is not the absence of difficulty, but her ability to hold grace in the middle of it. Grace under pressure is one of the most compelling qualities a woman can carry. In a world constantly pulling people into reaction, she chooses response. While others rush to speak, she pauses. While others flinch, she breathes. While others panic, she remains rooted. Grace isn't just kindness, it's presence under fire. It's the ability to stay true to yourself, even when the situation feels overwhelming. It's not passivity, it's power without aggression. It's poise that holds firm without pushing back unnecessarily. And that kind of grace doesn't happen by accident. It's built in the quiet moments when she practices staying calm, staying clear, staying kind, especially to herself. When the world spins fast, she slows down. Not because she's weak, but because she knows strength isn't found in how loud you are, but in how intentional. She doesn't need to dominate a room to command it. Her energy does the work for her. And that energy, that centeredness, comes from the quiet decision to not be reactive, to not let circumstances define her character. She leads with grace, and people follow not because they're forced to, but because they want to. The beautiful woman under pressure is not perfect. She still feels fear. She still gets overwhelmed. But she has cultivated an internal compass that brings her back to balance. She knows that losing her cool might win the moment, but it costs her integrity. So she slows down. She chooses patience over panic. She listens when it would be easier to lash out. And in doing so, she teaches others, without saying a word, how to move through the world with grace. This strength doesn't mean she's emotionless. In fact, she feels deeply, but her emotions don't control her. They inform her. She's not at war with her sensitivity. She's integrated it. She knows that tears are not weakness, that compassion is not naivety, that vulnerability is not something to hide, but something to hold with care. And that emotional intelligence gives her the power to de-escalate storms before they begin. Grace under pressure also means she doesn't take everything personally. She's not constantly on the defensive. She can tell the difference between her responsibility and someone else's projection. She lets go of what doesn't belong to her, and because of that, she walks lighter. It's not that the weight of life doesn't land on her shoulders, it does, but she carries it differently. She carries it with wisdom, not resentment. People come to her not because she has all the answers, but because she creates a space where others feel safe to find their own. She doesn't use her voice to overpower, but to uplift. She doesn't fight to be heard. She speaks when it matters. And when she does, people lean in. Because when grace meets clarity, the result is influence that lasts. The truly beautiful woman isn't trying to be anyone else. She's not chasing trends or followers or applause. She's chosen something richer. She's chosen to be rooted. She's chosen alignment over attention, grace over control, presence over performance. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable, not because of what she shows, but because of who she is. There's a quiet power in a woman who knows how to protect her peace. She doesn't build walls, she sets boundaries. She doesn't explain herself out of fear. She speaks from clarity. And what's most striking is not just that she knows what she needs, but that she's not afraid to walk away from what doesn't honor it. A beautiful woman doesn't set boundaries to push people away. She sets them to stay connected to herself, because she understands that love without self-respect is not love. It's sacrifice. And not all sacrifice is noble. Sometimes it's the slow erosion of identity in the name of acceptance. She's lived that. She's done the dance of over-explaining, over-giving, over-compensating. And she's decided to stop, not because she's bitter, but because she's finally honest. There's no beauty in a boundary set from anger, but there is something deeply sacred about a boundary set from self-awareness. It's not about controlling others. It's about taking responsibility for your own space. She doesn't blame. She doesn't attack. She simply makes clear what she will and won't allow. And once she's made that choice, she stands by it. Not with a clenched fist, but with an open heart. Her no is not an act of rebellion, it's an act of self-preservation. It's not harsh, it's holy. It's the result of understanding that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of alignment. And nothing disrupts alignment more than saying yes when every fiber of your being is screaming no. She no longer calls that maturity, she calls it self-abandonment. And she's done with that version of herself. She knows that she doesn't have to prove her kindness by tolerating disrespect, that empathy doesn't require exhaustion, that being available to everyone all the time is not generosity, it's neglect. She understands that the most powerful thing a woman can do is protect her energy like it's sacred, because it is. And when she does, something begins to shift in how people treat her, not because she demands respect, but because she embodies it. People learn how to treat you by watching how you treat yourself. And a woman who honors her own needs teaches others to do the same, not through words, but through example. She doesn't beg for consideration, she models it. She doesn't chase validation, she lives in alignment. And that alignment speaks louder than any explanation ever could. There's an old belief that setting boundaries makes you cold, but nothing could be further from the truth. Boundaries allow her to love fully without losing herself, to give freely without becoming empty, to care deeply without carrying what's not hers. She's not harder now, she's clearer. She's not distant, she's discerning. And that clarity doesn't diminish her warmth, it amplifies it. Because what people experience in her presence is not a woman who's closed off. It's a woman who's safe to be around. Safe because she's not hiding resentment behind a smile. Safe because she's not silently judging while saying yes. Safe because she's chosen honesty over harmony when harmony meant self-denial. And that honesty creates a space where real connection can breathe. But that kind of connection only exists in people who have done the work to be whole. And wholeness is the quiet foundation of the most beautiful women. Wholeness doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being integrated, from knowing your shadows and still choosing to stand in the light, from doing the healing so that others don't have to bleed from your wounds. A truly beautiful woman doesn't heal others because she sees them as broken. She holds space because she remembers what it felt like to be unheard. She doesn't fix, she doesn't rescue, she simply becomes a mirror, reflecting to others the safety they've been looking for. And that reflection is only possible because she's done the hard work of facing herself first. Healing is not about removing pain. It's about learning to sit with it without being consumed. She's learned to sit with grief, disappointment, fear, and rather than run, she's listened. She's let the silence speak. And in that space, she discovered something. That presence is more powerful than performance. That people don't need advice as much as they need someone who's not afraid of their pain. When she listens, she does so without interruption. When she speaks, it's with intention. There's no need to dominate a conversation. She understands that being heard isn't about volume, it's about authenticity. And in her presence, people feel heard even before they speak, because her attention is undivided. Her energy is grounded. Her heart is open, but not unguarded. She doesn't seek to be everyone's hero. She's learned the cost of emotional labor that's not reciprocated. And now she loves from overflow, not obligation. She gives from abundance, not emptiness. And that giving becomes medicine. Not because she's trying to heal others, but because her healed self becomes an invitation for others to rise. There's no script to follow, no technique to memorize. It's her being that does the work. Her calm in chaos, her softness in truth, her stillness in others are spinning. It's not that she never doubts or breaks down. It's that she doesn't let those moments define her. She uses them as mirrors, not anchors. And each time she returns stronger, softer, wiser. She becomes a safe place, not just for others, but for herself. She no longer abandons her needs to avoid confrontation. She no longer pretends to be okay when she's not. And in that honesty, people feel permission to be honest too. That kind of environment doesn't just build trust, it builds transformation. It's easy to believe that beauty is something you see, but the truth is the most beautiful women are experienced, not just observed. Their essence lingers, their energy shifts the room, their presence brings relief, not pressure. And that kind of presence is earned through nights of reflection, through moments of uncomfortable truth, through the radical decision to be whole rather than impressive. She doesn't need to be everything to everyone. She's chosen to be enough for herself, and that enoughness is where her beauty begins. She's no longer asking, "Do you see me?" She's already seen herself, and the world in turn adjusts its gaze. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't need to be seen to know she matters. She walks into a room not to prove herself, but to be herself. She's not scanning faces for approval. She's not measuring her worth by who notices her or how much attention she receives. Because she knows attention is fleeting, but presence, that's lasting. This kind of woman carries herself like someone who's already been chosen, not by the world, but by her. She doesn't wait for permission to feel whole. She doesn't outsource her confidence to external opinions. Her validation is internal. It's the product of years spent turning inward, of asking difficult questions and sitting with honest answers. She's done the work, not to become perfect, but to become real. You can feel it when you talk to her. She's not trying to impress. She's trying to connect. She doesn't speak in a way that demands applause. She speaks in a way that invites reflection. There's no performance, there's no chase, just truth. And that truth has weight, not because it's loud, but because it's earned. She's not driven by likes, follows, or the ever-changing opinions of strangers. Her confidence doesn't fluctuate with feedback. She's steady, not because nothing shakes her, but because she's anchored in purpose, anchored in values, anchored in the quiet understanding that her worth is not conditional. It wasn't always this way. She's walked through seasons of self-doubt. She's known the ache of comparison, the sting of rejection, the pull to become something she's not just to feel enough. But those moments became her turning points. Each time she bent for approval, she felt the fracture in her spirit, and she chose, again and again, to come back to herself, to her own voice, to her own vision. She's not above validation, she's just not ruled by it. She appreciates praise, but doesn't need it. She welcomes recognition, but doesn't crave it, because she's found something deeper than applause, alignment. And alignment is what gives her the ability to stand tall when the crowd is silent, to keep going when no one is watching, to stay kind even when the world is cruel. Her strength lies in her steadiness, in her ability to walk with clarity even when the path is lonely. She doesn't shrink when misunderstood. She doesn't beg to be seen. She understands that those who are meant to recognize her will, and in the meantime, she chooses to keep showing up authentically, consistently, unapologetically. This kind of self-possession isn't arrogance. It's the quiet result of self-respect. And that respect didn't come from achievements. It came from the times she kept her integrity when it cost her. From the moments she chose growth over comfort. From the days she showed up for herself when no one else did. She doesn't need to explain her dreams. She lives them. She doesn't need to prove her intelligence. She expresses it with clarity. She doesn't need to ask for space. She takes it with grace, not force. People trust her not because she's flawless, but because she's consistent, grounded, real. When you meet a woman like that, you don't walk away talking about what she wore or how she looked. You talk about how you felt in her presence, seen, understood, grounded. Because her confidence doesn't create comparison, it creates comfort. She doesn't elevate herself by lowering others. She rises, and in doing so makes space for others to do the same. Her confidence is quiet because it doesn't need to be loud. It's not in your face. It's in her decisions, in how she holds eye contact, in how she doesn't fill silences with noise, in how she's not afraid to disagree, not because she wants conflict, but because she honors truth. She's not trying to win arguments, she's building understanding. Her presence isn't performative, it's purposeful. Every interaction with her feels intentional. She doesn't multitask when you speak. She doesn't interrupt to be heard. She listens with the kind of focus that makes you feel valued. And that, more than any image, is what makes her beautiful. True beauty, the kind that deepens with age, isn't built on popularity. It's rooted in purpose. And purpose doesn't trend. Purpose doesn't expire. It grows, it evolves, it deepens. A beautiful woman is one who has found that purpose and chosen to live in it, not just when it's convenient, but when it's costly. She's not chasing moments. She's building a legacy. She thinks in years, not likes. In values, not vibes. In substance, not surface. And because of that, she moves differently. She speaks with care. She chooses what matters over what sells. She's not impressed by flash. She looks for depth and offers it in return. Her purpose isn't tied to her profession. It's tied to her presence, how she shows up, how she treats others, how she honors her voice, her story, her process. She may be in any role, any stage of life, any environment, and yet she stands out. Not because she's trying to, but because she carries herself like someone who belongs. She's no longer trying to be everywhere. She's focused on being where it counts. She's selective, not to be superior, but to be sincere. She invests her energy where it creates impact, not noise. And in doing so, she inspires others to do the same, to live with intention, to stop performing, to start becoming. There's a difference between being busy and being fulfilled. She's learned that. She's no longer impressed by the hustle that costs health, by the achievements that mask emptiness. She looks deeper. She asks better questions. She chooses meaning over momentum. And it shows in how she speaks, in what she celebrates, in what she lets go of. The most beautiful women aren't those who burn brightest for a moment. They are the ones who burn steadily over time, who become more graceful, more generous, more grounded with age. Because their beauty isn't tied to time. It's tied to truth. And the truth is, she's no longer chasing being extraordinary in the world's eyes. She's focused on being whole in her own. She's let go of proving. She's embraced becoming. And in that shift, something powerful happened. She became unforgettable. So when the world rushes by with noise, pressure, and expectation, look for her. Not the loudest voice, not the brightest light, but the quiet, steady presence of a woman who knows who she is. A woman who walks in truth when the world offers illusion. Who protects her peace even when chaos calls. Who leads with grace, leads with purpose, and stands rooted not in perfection, but in presence. She is not beautiful because she tries to be. She is beautiful because she is free. Free from the need to prove, to please, to perform. She has become the kind of woman who builds a life from the inside out. And in doing so, she becomes a lighthouse, not asking others to follow her, but simply showing what's possible when you choose to live from your soul. That is the divine beauty the world needs more of. Not filtered, not flawless, just real, radiant, and rooted. And the most incredible part, every woman has this beauty within her. She doesn't have to find it. She only has to return to it. And when she does, the world doesn't just see her, it changes because of her.